Great. Thank you, Eric. All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here at the Immigrant and Refugee Affairs Forum. My name is Anisa Hajimomin, Assistant Commissioner for Immigrant and Refugee Affairs at the Department of Employment and Economic Development, also known as DEED. So, this forum is a platform created to serve as a bridge between state service providers, state leaders to connect with immigrants and refugees, advocates, leaders serving new Americans, and we come together on the first Tuesdays of the month from 3 to 4:30. So after the forum, we release a blog post on Deed's website and we share it through the social media platforms. In addition to the state leaders presenting at the forum, we designated some time for community updates as well. So this way, community organizations, leaders, and advocates working with the state can share information about economic workforce development and other resources pertaining to immigrants and refugees. I appreciate my colleagues, Eric Leitner and Darren Eck, that are helping me with the forum, including technicalities, live streaming, taking notes, and helping prepare the blog that will go out in a few days. And finally, for housekeeping purposes, unless you're presenting, I kindly ask you to please mute yourselves and feel free to share your name, your agency, and contact information in the chat box. If you have a question, you can either use the hand raise function or the chat box to comment or question. So we're gonna go ahead and start our program today. Our first presenter is Pong Xiong, Director of Department of Public Safety, Driver and Vehicle Services. In the past, as many of you know, Emma Corey had presented for us, but since then, Director Xiong took over the position. Welcome, Director Xiong. And some of the updates include that he will share with us about his division today, anything that's particularly pertaining to the Afghan evacuees and how they can obtain their driver license, etc. Welcome, Pong. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you. Well, hello to the team here. I'm very excited to be here. Like the assistant commissioner noted, I am newer to this role, so I'm have big shoes to fill behind Emma. But I wanted to take some time here to talk about the Afghan driver's license and credential opportunity, or the services that they can obtain here in DVS. I had my program director, Jody K. Peterson, put together a short 2-page document that was already shared, and we can definitely share it again. We're shared at a different forum, and we can definitely share again. But it really just talks about what are the particular documents that are needed, whether it's for a driver's license or for our Minnesota ID. And it talks to some of the documents that we are aware of, that these resellees are potentially going to have on them, and how they kind of fit into our process. And so I'll just highlight kind of some of the takeaways from that document. So there are two types of, in order for you to be issued an ID or a driver's license, you need to be able to present a primary document and a secondary document. Both of those types of documents are available, like what kind of documents fall under those categories are available on the website. But based off of what we're expecting to see from these resellees, we think that they will have the adequate documentation to at the very least obtain a Minnesota ID. And some of that is going to be documentation that comes from why am I drawing a blank here? From Homeland. And the other thing that is kind of detailed in the document is, if you're having issues or have questions about this process and you'd like to get more information, there's contact information there, and certainly myself and Jody K are both available if you're finding yourself running into challenges in getting IDs. Now, there will be some challenges if folks are looking into real ID and Real ID, it has a certain sets of requirements, and so those may or may not be eligible, or they may or may not be eligible for the Real ID. But again, for standard ID, that is very likely that we are able to support them. So that's at a very, very high level, some information about IDs and standard driver's licenses. I also wanted to take a minute today to preview one of the governor's initiatives, or one of the governor's supplemental budget items, which is we are proposing to put race data or collect race data on during license applications. So this would include permits, driver's license, Real ID, and enhanced ID applications. The intent of collecting this data is so that we can share that data with the Office of Traffic Safety, and so that they can put together real data around traffic stops and in correlation to race. I think there's been, there's a lot of assumption that DPS already has this data, and we do not. And so the supplemental budget request of legislative proposal is really to authorize DPS or DVS to collect the data. And again, our role in this is to get that data together so that we can put it in or get it over to our Office of Traffic Safety, so that they can combine that with traffic stop data and share that with the community and with stakeholders. Currently, our proposal is to, again, collect it at the time of application. It will not be printed on the card, and it will not be available to law enforcement for the use of for their use. So as we've currently proposed it in legislation, that is how that would work. We are proposing that we use the same standard categories of race and ethnicity that's found on the U.S. Census, so that we have consistent data and this familiarity in that type of questionnaire. And then we are proposing that it's optional. And so we wouldn't require someone to fill in this data if they didn't want to. And we're currently proposing that there's an option to just not respond. Our hope, obviously, is that we get lots of response so that we have good data to share with our partnering division and Office of Traffic Safety, so that they have good inclusive data to map out and to share with the community. So again, that is a proposal right now. It will need to get through the legislative process before we can implement or act on the proposal or any sort of legislative language. We're hopeful that this will get through the session, but we shall see what happens in May. So those are my updates, and I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you so much, Pong. Anybody has questions? Either the updates for the Afghan evacuees and ways that they can get the driver license, or the data collection information. I see Kathleen's hand up. Kathleen, go ahead, please.
Do you know of any intention for the driver's manual that our evacuees will need to study to take the driver's written test? Do you have any knowledge of someone intending to translate that into Persian or Farsi or Dari, or just some language that could be common to the Afghanis?
So to my knowledge, no. And so I think, and there's really a two-part kind of response to this. So thank you for asking the question. So one is officially DVS doesn't have the capacity to do translation, and so we're not going to we don't have the resources to formally put out an official translated document. But that being said, community partners have taken the initiative to translate the driver's manual in several languages, and so there may be community partners who have done this, but I am just not 100% sure if it's in the languages that you asked in that question. But again, officially, no. Officially, we will not have those documents translated. But unofficially, our community partners have done this, and I don't know how they make them available, but through the community.
I also see Lillian. Go ahead, Lillian.
Thank you, Assistant Commissioner. It's good to see everybody here. My question is on the race and ethnicity data. I think that's huge, and hopefully maybe that might open the door for more agencies and others who have been struggling to collect that data. While I appreciate the confidentiality and all the nuances that come with that, we also would benefit from that data in telling the stories, and also when you're working within the intersection of equity and access. I think we need that data. But my question is, you say that, I know you mentioned that that data will not be available, that information will not be available to law enforcement. How far can you share that data, or will that data not be shareable with other agencies or other programs that might either impact cross-agency work to provide maybe access or to better leverage for a lot of the communities that we're trying to provide access to?
Absolutely. Yeah, so right now the current legislation is proposing that we categorize this race data as private data under Chapter 13. So which means that we can provide summary data on it uh, uh, based off of requests. And we anticipate lots of requests for this data if we're able to collect it. And so part of our proposal is to actually that includes an FTE or includes a person to support and field these requests for summary data. We are naming specifically OTS in this legislation so that we can provide more than what Chapter 13 allows us to provide. Chapter 13 requires you for private data, and by the way, I'm no expert in Chapter 13, so but Chapter 13 doesn't allow you to provide any data that will be able to identify an individual. And in order for Officer of Traffic Safety to tie traffic stops to individuals, they need that the DL number, the driver's license number. And so specifically in legislation, we're going to be writing that in or proposing that OTS can receive that kind of data. But beyond that, the community and Minnesotans in general will have access to this data, because this will be, again, private data, but shareable in summary format.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On the data collection part, Pong, I had a question for communities, especially like Afghan arrivals. Will there be information that will be available to them? Well, first of all, when will the data collection start? And for them, I'm afraid getting the driver license and filling out applications, oftentimes if they don't speak the language, they'll probably bring a friend, a family member, or who will interpret for them. I'm wondering, in that case, if there are no resources right now available to translate the materials, will there be at least some sort of a snippet to provide to the community, so that way they can read and understand their rights, and that this is a voluntary based data provided, and that way they can choose. And if they do, they understand, because there are a lot of immigrants and refugees that are really afraid to share some sensitive data. And there's a lot of fear about law enforcement, ICE, and Homeland Security per se. And I'm wondering, I know that we talked about this, and hopefully you and Nicole will be presenting at Edmundo and Michelle Rivero's immigration forums that have gone from biweekly to monthly now, and other platforms. But I'm wondering, what can be the easiest way to educate communities that may have language access challenges, so they know their rights, so they can provide these data, understanding the benefit and outcome, but also the consequences as well?
Yeah, no, I thank you for that question. And so in terms of timing, it will be very dependent on legislation and when if that passes. All right, and then there's programming needs that need to happen in order for us to set up our applications, update our applications to collect this kind of data, and so there's some technical work that needs to happen. I would say that best case scenario, if we get legislation, I could see us potentially collecting as early as January 1 of 2023 of the next year. Um, um, Right now, we haven't built any systems. We haven't started making any technical changes to collect this data. Um, so, so a lot of it will be dependent on legislation as far as implementation. To your question about communication and about how do we inform Minnesotans about their rights to share or not share this, I think that it's going to be a critical part of our implementation process. We're right now we're queuing up things like communication. We're queuing up different community groups that we want to engage with, so that we can make sure that this information is and this change is in front of people, and then we're proactively communicating that. So between now and when we start that work, if there are suggestions of different groups that we can connect with, or specific um, um, partnerships that we can build now in preparation for that, we would absolutely be interested in that. I know Nicole, you mentioned already, has kind of, we're starting to queue some of that up, and this is really the beginning of that conversation, and we're hoping that by engaging a community this early in the process, before it even becomes law, and while it's just a proposal, that we start to pick up more and more folks who are interested in that, and maybe build a forum for folks to come to get updates about this specific change. I do know that as we talk to more community groups about this specific topic, there's a ton of interest, and there's also a ton of concern around this. So we welcome that feedback and those suggestions about how we can do this in a way that is helpful for community, but also that where we can share and help educate on what Minnesotans' rights are in sharing or not sharing this information.
That makes sense. Thank you so much. I had shared the Minnesota language and demographic data report. It's a document that showcases the language that are spoken at home in our state and language that require accessibility. That was put together by New American Economy. And that's really helpful. And it's now available on DEED's website under resources. So anybody interested in there, in that document, looking at it, the good thing about it is that it shows what region, in the state, and what language require accessibility, and what language that are spoken at home. So anybody interested in that document can access. The one thing, however, I'd like to say is that the new language, in addition to the ones that require accessibility, are Dari and Pashto. And we haven't yet gathered the data of how many, or the percentage wise, that will require this language access support. So New American Economy is working on that, and hopefully we'll get that updated soon. But I thought I would share that because that's really resources. And when you know the data helps make decisions better, and think about creating funds for creating this access to people that may not speak English. Thank you so much, Pong. Has anybody have any more questions or comments? Looks like there is none. Thank you so much for presenting here, and hopefully we get to see you again in the future for more presentations. And you're holding a very important role. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So our next presenter is Mark Meyers, Director of Employment and Training Programs at the Department of Employment and Economic Development. He'll discuss the International Foreign Trade Grant that many of you had been waiting for and learning about it, and wanting to know how to go about it. So welcome, Mark. Is Mark here with us? Originally, we thought Ann Meyers, one of the supervisors under Mark's team, would present, but we realized later on that Mark would be presenting to us instead. Eric, do you see Mark? I can't see. Okay, that would be great. Thank you so much. I guess in the meantime, we can go ahead and maybe do some community updates while Mark is joining us. And Julie, were you gonna share some of the information about the Afghan evacuees, the donations, things that are needed?
Yeah, I can
Thank
do
you.
that right now. Thank you so much, Assistant
Sure.
Commissioner. So, hi everyone. I'm Anjali Cameron. I'm Research Director at the Council on Asian Pacific Minnesotans. I know many of you on the call are already involved in the response, but Assistant Commissioner Haji Moomin and I and others sit on a state response leadership task force that is responsible for helping within the current Afghan evacuation resettlement process in Minnesota. And so one of my responsibilities with regard to that task force is helping to coordinate community response. And so I really appreciate the Assistant Commissioner making time in this space to put in those requests. And so a lot of this response is community driven in terms of community-based organizations are stepping up, including some of the organizations on this call, to really help with the resettlement response. I will mention that some of that includes a big need for donation items. And so we have a couple of different donation requests. Let me just pull it up here. First, I will say that all donations that are going to our transitional hotel site can go to a Holiday Inn Express that has agreed to be a donation reception site. So I'm putting their address into the chat here. And that is open to organizations 24/7. So you need to go to the front desk and let them know that you have a donation drop-off for the Afghan evacuees, and then they'll direct you from there. But that can be dropped off anytime, day or night. And some of the biggest needs are really around belts for men and boys, toys for kids, bras for women is a significant need. This morning, we actually talked about the need for professional clothing, whether it is regardless of what type of profession the new evacuees are entering, that they have some level of professional clothing. And to put into context these donation requests, because of the nature of the Afghan evacuation, people left with little more than the clothing on their backs. Many of them didn't even have time to grab their eyeglasses, their prescription eyeglasses. So a lot of that is being fulfilled now that they have arrived here in Minnesota. So these are really just at the very beginning stages of starting their new life here. One of the other asks is around sewing machines and sewing kits. A lot of the women are more comfortable either making their own clothing or reusing clothing and kind of sewing it to fit their needs. So that's another significant request. And then I will also mention that another organization that we are partnering with called Alight is leading on housing setup. And so this is the last link that I'll drop in the chat, but it is for their Amazon wish list. And so you can share that with your networks, and items can be purchased off of that Amazon wish list. And those items will be used to set up the new homes for Afghan evacuees. So I think if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer those. Otherwise, really, really thankful that you made time for this during this conversation today, Commissioner.
Thank you so much, and Julie. Looks like we are still finding Mark or the other person that might present on his behalf if he cannot make it. But did anybody else have an update for the community? Feel free to chime in, please.
Assistant Commissioner, maybe I can just mention to this group, because I don't think I've been here since my new role or the new office at the MDA. It's good to see most of you again. Anjali, good to see you. You know, we worked together when I was at the governor's office. But I am currently the new coordinator for the new Emerging Farmer Office at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. What that means is there's now a dedicated office and staff person to work through with immigrants, refugees, and communities of color and other folks who have faced a lot of access issues for entry into agriculture. So this office is going to be mostly dedicated for that. As we know, so some of the primary issues that most of the emerging farmers face is land access and capital. But we also know that a lot of the communities who are interested in agriculture or who face these barriers come from mostly agrarian economies where agriculture is something that they are familiar with, something that they're experts at. It's just that this is a new environment. There's regulatory issues, but there's also other issues that they need to navigate to be able to move on into agriculture, and also making sure that they can see agriculture as a viable economic opportunity. And so, we're working closely with Assistant Commissioner Maureen, and we're very grateful that she's seen it fit for us to join forces, the MDA and DEED, in trying to see how we can support emerging farmers. So I'll drop a link on the emerging farmers, information on the emerging farmers, as well as we do have open meetings. Our next open meetings for the Emerging Farmers Working Group is this February 11 from 1 to 3. It's an open meeting, so everyone is welcome to join because we want voices to be represented, and that is how we learn, but also we take this feedback, send it back to the legislature, and to help advocate for emerging farmers. And we do have a report that goes out to the legislature every year. We just sent this year's report yesterday. So thank you, and that's the information I need to provide everyone.
Thank you so much, Lillian, and congrats for all your leadership. Lillian is also the president, if I may say so, the Kenyan American community in America, North America. So that's really big deal. And for you being here in this role is really big deal too, because you really have so much to contribute to the community. Lisa and Michelle Rivero are also going to share some community updates. Michelle and then Lisa. Thank you.
Super, thank you so much. So my name is Michelle Rivero. I'm with the Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs for the City of Minneapolis, and along with my colleague Edmundo Lijo, representing City of St. Paul, who I think might be on this call as well. We host a monthly immigration forum focusing on issues touching immigrant and refugee residents in the Twin Cities area and beyond. We started this monthly series pretty much right after the start of the Biden administration to share immigration policy and legal updates for community, and have expanded to share information on additional topics of interest to our immigrant and refugee residents. So similar format to what AC Hajimumin, thank you so much for this monthly space with different speakers every month. This month we'll have a representative from the Attorney General's office talking about consumer protection and wage theft, and a couple of representatives from the City of Minneapolis talking about engagement with immigrant and refugee elders, and sharing information about a new RFP that's coming out through the city's health department. We'll also have some immigration updates, and there's space, as in this forum, for community updates. So I'll just put that information into the chat, and any questions, I'll put my contact information there as well. And Mundo, if I missed anything and you're on, please fill in. Oh, might be muted.
Eric, could you unmute Edmundo, please?
Oh, he's on the phone, so I'm not sure if he's able to do that.
Oh, there you go.
Great. Thank you so much, Michelle and Assistant Commissioner Hajumin. I appreciate the invite to speak, and I just want to say thank you and hope you can join us at our forum. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate, Michelle, that you're sharing the information about the RFP from the Minneapolis Department of Health. So that's good. Thank you so much. Lisa? I think Lisa is on mute as well.
Yeah. Yep, and I think I'm here now. You're looking for Lisa Largess?
Lisa Perez.
Oh, good.
Sorry about the confusion. We have two Lisas.
There it is. Thank you so much, Assistant Commissioner, for the opportunity. So my name is Lisa Perez, and I'm with a small nonprofit. And we have just completed in December a pilot program for degreed immigrant job seekers to support them with the tools and resources they need to compete in our local market. Our first employer partner is the Toro Company, which is actually home to 16 organizations. And we are getting ready to launch a second cohort in mid-May. And so I've just been making a list of community organizations that I think it would be dynamite to connect with as we reach out to get our next cohort group pulled together. We're looking again at mid-May. So my email address is lisa@prosperityready.org, and more than happy to do a session to give everybody more information about our program.
Thank you so much, Lisa. All right, so looks like if there aren't any more community updates, we'll go ahead and have our next presenter. Mark Meyers is not here, but we have Enoch Kakuku. And please correct me if I'm slaughtering your name, but he's my colleague from DEED, so he's going to present to us about the grant. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Enoch Kakuku, and I will be actually responsible for this particular grant. I did as a coordinator, and together with my colleague Ann Meyers, who is not here today. And unfortunately, I thought I was to present on a different forum other than this, but I'll go through just basics of the expectations for this particular grant. Just hold on. I was just.
Enoch, actually, you have plenty of time, so take your time. I understand it's probably the last minute notice, but I really appreciate you being here and helping us understand the grant and how to apply, and for community leaders and organizations here to learn about when is it going to be posted, what is it about, what is the funding, things like that. And I see Maureen Ramirez is here with us as well, or maybe not. So she can also help with some of the information, but yeah, take your time. Thank you.
Okay, let me just hold a bit. Okay, first and foremost, the the grant was first and initially intended for all professions. And it went out on September 27th, 2021. However, leadership actually realized that probably we need to focus it just onto healthcare. And why healthcare? Is because of the statistics that we're going to be presenting very soon that shows that we have a niche of immigrants who should be actually helping through in the health sector where lots of jobs have been lost and COVID actually exposed a lot of deficiencies. And so the health sector is actually looking so much for the employees, and then also the history that many immigrants, when they come in this country, it's hard to navigate all the complicated systems in order to do what they used to do in their countries. We have licensing bodies, but many people don't actually know which they are. So by the time you figure that out, you have to put roof um, and feed your kids. So you just go for an easy job. We have so many health workers who um, would be actually helping out, but they are serving in Walmart, they're serving in Target, just because the system, which system is actually even hard for a person who's been here, a native, the system is hard to navigate first and foremost. And then you just come here and you don't know what to do. And so every step that you try to take seems to be hard and to navigate. So what you decide is like, you just find an easy job just to you make sure you feed your family or you have people you're taking care back home. And so from there, normally actually your chances go on reducing. Most healthcare professions require current credentials, require that you've been practicing in the last 5 years. So once you're here and time begins going, then you actually become an unlikely candidate. So it is from this background and that the leadership decided to focus on healthcare just to kind of close that gap and help the individuals who are struggling elsewhere. And the most important part of it is the collaborations between the employers and then the trainers, and how you get that information. Did things that if we work with our communities as collaborators, and we will be kind of centralizing information, and because our communities are more closer to the people when they've just come in, it's easy to tap into them and guide them. And because that's your specialty, you've amassed wealth, you know how to guide them, and where even they would have given up, you offer options and solutions. I'll give an example of a friend of mine who came here, and after trying to get into residency and every time not being taken up in the list, time had already moved. So he didn't, somehow, somewhere, he felt that he could actually utilize his knowledge with working for Target, and then he ended up in Target. But this is a candidate who would have probably been advised to, even at that particular time, would have been advised and shown the help that DID provides. And you take a different channel, but which channel probably later on might lead you, or will definitely lead you to where you actually want to go. You say, all right, let's start with, since you already have, you've been a physician in your country, you've probably taken the tests, but getting a residency is becoming very hard. How about doing a crash course in as a registered nurse? And that would easily lead you to to a Bachelor of Sciences in nursing and nursing practitioner, and then you actually go back to that. Now, without that, of course, requires funding. That requires guidance. That requires a lot of support service. First and foremost, it's very difficult to make a decision that is going to actually result into, it's very difficult to make a decision that is going to result into you losing hours to go for work. And that's where this kind of program comes in. It's like, how can you partner up the different resources and help this individual? We have several programs. We have MFEP that helps on settling people. We do have SNAP that can help on child nutrition and loss in that field. We have different programs that can help on childcare. But a person who is just coming here won't know how to navigate those. And you, as a community collaborator with the funders, you have all this knowledge. So it's easy for you to actually direct and help them kind of refocus and focus to where actually they even want to be. It might take a little longer, but then it's easy to focus there. So this kind of program comes in to look for how can we amass wealth to know where the accelerator programs are and get to know how do you get into the system such that there's no waste of time. By the time you get this person who needs to actually join a program, you know the step, you know the steps that you can advise them to take. So knowing where they are going and having you to support them and you being exposed to several funding streams from different programs is going to be to make a big difference to these individuals. It's easy to make a decision where I know I have help, so I'm not going to work the 5 or 7 days a week. I'll probably work the 2 days a week and then concentrate on attending an accelerated program that will result in me achieving what I would have achieved in probably 4 years. I do achieve it within 2 years. So most importantly is the collaboration. Where did so much needs your collaboration is you are in positions to interface the institutions of learning. You are in position to interface the employers. And this is where this information can easily be actually got, because if you went to hospitals, they know which institutions actually do help them kind of get the people that are trainable. So these are the connections that we're seeking out from the community and bringing on board, because this is these are the pieces that can easily be brought into. Funding is available and the collaborators are available. However, the people who are going to help us mainly are the institutions and the employers. How do we connect to them? How do we make those connections be fruitful, whereby by the time you have an applicant, you already know and you can guide them in a step-by-step how to achieve. We find, and historically, you'll actually also discover that without that kind of information, there's sometimes information overflow because there's so much moving around. There's so much going around and you get so much information that sometimes doesn't add up. And sometimes there's actually a lack of information. You'll be so surprised that so many people don't know the services that they can actually access through the community programs that are already in place. And whenever you get those kind of people, you're like, oh, where have you been all that time? But it's the information flow. And this is where it leans into the community to help collaborate these programs. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I also have Maureen Ramirez. Maureen, were you able to, great, you're here, share some of the information on the grant as well, when it's going to be available, deadlines, how much is it, things like that. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Hi, everyone. I'm Maureen Ramirez. I also work at DEED and was helping a little bit just to put together some of our announcements about the program. So I can review a little bit with you, and then we're a little ahead of time. So in the next 2 weeks, actually, my colleague Mark Meyers was just able to join us. Mark, I was just going to do the some of the deadlines and how much funding is available and who's eligible to apply. Information that I know is expected to go out in a press release in the next day or two. You let me know if you want me to keep doing that.
You can go ahead because I'm going to have to jump off in a few minutes, but I will be here just in case there's some questions.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go off what we put together in our plan for the press release. It's called the Internationally Trained Healthcare Professionals Competitive Grant Program. And this is to get, like Enoch was describing, healthcare workers who've earned their professional license in another country, right, prior to coming to the United States, to help them to obtain a licensure in the US. And we know that can be challenging for all sorts of reasons. So the program will make grants up to $400,000 over 2 years to an organization that would assist those trained professionals, healthcare, folks who got their training internationally, to gain a license here. And the kind of organization that would be eligible to apply to this grant from DEED would be if you are a state or a local government unit. So a state or government unit, that could be probably like a city or a county or some kind of government entity. That can include universities and schools and 2-year colleges, so a 2-year or a 4-year post-secondary institution. You could be a nonprofit organization, you could be a community action organization, or you could be a labor organization like a labor union or a worker support organization. We are looking for partnerships between organizations. I think especially with post-secondary or some of the places in Minnesota that grant those licenses or certify those for people. So like a organization that's a community organization that has a partnership with a 2-year or 4-year post-secondary school, they could apply together and say, all right, we have a plan for recruiting people, for finding these folks who got their training outside of the US, getting them through the steps they have to get through in order to certify that licensure here in Minnesota, and then back out and into the workforce. So that's the idea of the grant. Nonprofit organizations, 2-year, 4-year schools, labor organizations, community action groups, or a government unit is eligible to apply. And we will be next week, I think it opens on February 9th. Will be all the details about the grant program will be available. It will be open for people to apply, or for organizations to apply, and organizations will get about almost full 2 months to apply. So it will remain open all the way till the end of March, until Monday, March 28th. So we're a little ahead here because it's going to open up on February 9th, and there's going to be 2 more options to get information about the program. There's going to be there's a community engagement session describing more information about it that will happen Thursday this week. And then there'll be an informational webinar on the request for the proposal on February 15th. Maybe if Mark's still here, he knows what time those are. We have a couple links, so in the materials maybe that Anissa sends out afterwards, we can make sure people see those links. And those will also get posted to DEED's YouTube page, so people can watch those afterwards if you're not able to watch them right away. So that's what I have. You want to add anything, Mark?
Sure. Thanks, Maureen. That was excellent. Thanks for jumping in for us. So the meeting on this Thursday, the 3rd, will actually be at 3:30. Excuse me, at 3 o'clock. And what we could do is hand the information over to Anissa and the team, and then they can get it out to everyone. And this is really kind of a little bit like this, but kind of community engagement opportunity, so that we could hear your thoughts. before we do the official release of the RFP. And then once the RFP is out, because once the RFP is out, we can only answer questions very in writing, and we'll have to post them online. So this is kind of a little bit freer opportunity to ask direct questions in that process. And then just so you all know, just kind of want to add is that we generally have community reviewers as part of the process to reviewing our RFPs. That is something that over this administration's real desire to make sure we have community input, because a lot of folks are very closer to the programs than we are. So having that voice is very key to us in this process. So we're really excited. So if you know folks who may want to be community reviewers, you can reach out to Maureen or myself, and we can work with those individuals. Otherwise, yeah, next week, the 9th, it will go out. They'll have 45 days to respond, and then we'll try to make some determinations soon thereafter that. So looking forward to seeing the proposals. Any questions?
Thanks, Mark and Maureen and Enoch. Yeah, questions or comments?
I see one hand up. I'm not sure if that's who that is.
Looks like Kamati, Girma, and Ase. Go ahead, Kamati.
Oh, thank you very much, Commissioner. I had my hand earlier when you guys had a community organization speaking. My name is Kamati Dan. I am from the Organization of Liberians in Minnesota, Portland. We are a community of over 46,000 Liberians, and most of what we are talking about here is what we do. And to piggyback on what one of the gentlemen said is that to having a community engaged and involved in this thing, because we are the people that know the challenges of our community. We engage our community on a day-to-day basis, so we are in a better position with information and knowledge to know what would be better for our community, because we are part of that. Like currently, I carried on what we call a healthcare career workforce program. And we were able to partner with the city of Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center, which most of our community members are concentrated in. Because during this pandemic, most of the industry went down, except for the healthcare industry. So we have this program where we train CNA and TMA for the program to get re-emerged into the workforce. And it has been going on successfully. But the unfortunate part and challenges that we face is that we have 60 residents of Brooklyn Park and 30 residents of Brooklyn Center in this program. And those that live outside of Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center, they can be part of it because it's an EDM money, funds from Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center. So on our shift, we have about 130 persons in it. Now, why do we do this? When we wrote our grant, we say it is a culture specific training. Okay. Now, if you run through the North Hennepin Community College and the other colleges that have the CNA and TNA program, you have a strict curriculum. But we tailor this program in a way that we have local CNA school that we train our community members with the goal of making them succeed and prepare for the state board. And it has been very successful. Our only challenge is the capacity is too small. The resources is limited, and we have 90 people that can only take part in the program because they are only residents of Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Centers. Now, other cities outside of Brooklyn Park and Brooklyn Center, where you do not have higher concentration of our community members, do not want to be part of that. So our next goal is to either go to the state or to the county to expand the program, because all of those people that are in the program, they are doing good. Just imagine if you have 50% retrained to be a CNA, making an average income of about $18 an hour minimum, and you have 50 at the end of the year, you have $2 million as income. Who does it benefit? It benefits the residents, it benefits the state, the city, because it is another source of revenue. Those people pay taxes. Okay, then the money and resources that the city and state will be invested in other things to feed them and help, they will be able to provide for their family and themselves, and it give them a urge of self worthlessness. So I'm glad, and I don't know what this new grant that is coming. It can fit our program, because this is one of our challenges we are facing. We want to expand our program, and then I hope that this RPF could be in that line. So I'm very glad to be here again, and I want to thank all of you. And Anissa, you've always been advocating for community resources to be there, and I'm very glad that you guys are sharing this for now, and you are thinking on this. I'm very happy to be on this table today.
Thank you, Kamati. So, Girma, go ahead, please.
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Girma Hassan. I am from Oromo community of Minnesota, and I love this program. Thank you for organizing such important meeting continuously, almost for a year and a half, I think. And it is so nice to see you all. In Oromo community, we have an organization called IOPA, acronym, of course, International Oromo Health Professionals Association. They are, they have members from all over the world, but their headquarters is here in Minnesota. And I had a chance to attend their meeting recently. They have said that they have about 4 or 5 health professionals who came to this country and underemployed, or maybe underpaid, I should say. So this organization is a nonprofit organization. They do a lot of jobs, especially during the COVID time. They have been open their phone lines for 24/7 and advising people and helping a lot of community members for almost a year and a half too. So how this organization can come to you guys? Do you think this organization is qualified to apply for this grant? I'm gonna pass on your message to them.
Maureen, do you want to answer that question quick? I know it's 4 o'clock already, and we're at the end of our program, but I wanted to give some time for you to answer.
Thank you. I can give a short answer. Thank you, Girma. In a partnership, right? So I think and we'll describe this more, or it's another question you can ask on the Thursday session, if you can join that at 3 o'clock, because the program directors of the program will be there. But we're really looking for, like a community organization who partners with a college or a university to help make those connections between each other. So if you are the community group, if you have the good relationships, if you know the folks, I would think about who you know in your network who's connected to a school or a training program or anything else that would be, the connecting place, so that you could both together submit an application and say, we think that we can find the people, and then maybe it's Hemp and Tech or, somebody else who's got the system in place or the right people to help answer all those kind of licensing questions. Because that's the tricky part, right? I mean, if that part were easy, folks could do it on their own. And it's not easy. And so the grant is there to support the organizations and the people who can walk with somebody and help them get through that process and know where to direct them, and that there is an organization or a school or somebody on the other side who's ready to help walk them through the process.
Maureen, is there a link to attend to the on the information session? Did you already provide that, or it's just me?
I did not. Let me put this in the chat.
Great, thank you.
I apologize to folks because you're gonna have to put it on your calendar at 3 o'clock. My guess is it will be about a half hour, maybe 45 minutes, but it's more likely to be around, well, maybe an hour. I don't really know. Put on your calendar for 3 o'clock, and then this is the link I have. It's a WebEx link. I'm sorry it doesn't come with other, like it's not a calendar invitation, because I don't have the calendar invitation myself, but I would try that. And then Anissa, we can work with you on the email list that you have, or that we could send to folks.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, we will share it with you and follow, so that way you can review the information or just join and go from there. But looks like we're past our forum time. Thank you so much for staying longer. Appreciate you all. And Maureen, thank you so much for helping Enoch, for coming on for the short notice to provide, and Mark Meyers to join us as well. And Pong, Xiong as well to provide information, as well as Lisa and Lisa Press, Michelle Rivero, Edmundo, and Julie. Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Good night.
Good night. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Can I invite
you,
this
Anissa.
organization on the next meeting?
I'm sorry?
Can I invite this organization to the next meeting?
Oh, yeah, for the info session, please do. Anybody that's interested in applying, for this grant, go ahead and invite them, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Assistant Commissioner Anissa, and have a wonderful night.
Thank you. Maureen, were you
I
going to
put my email back in the chat again, right? If folks are trying to get connected, I'm happy to help just to try to make that smoother.
say? Thank you so much. All right, bye.
I'm trying to see that email. Ramira?
Kamati, are you talking with Maureen?
Yeah, remember what email address I wanted to, because what's actually the email address? I can't see it though.
I can forward Maureen's email, Kamati. It's okay.
Please.
You don't
I'm
think
from the old school.
it's okay. Thank you so much.
All right, bye.
All right, thank you. Bye.